You're listening to Investify, preaching financial independence and assisting investors to achieve a more flexible and free lifestyle through smart financial planning and real estate investing. If leaving the corporate world and jumping into this thriving industry is what you desire, tune in and listen to stories of like-minded individuals who made the leap to financial independence. Equip yourself with the right tips and tricks to start your real estate journey, making active or passive ventures that are highly profitable and rewarding. Here are your hosts, Craig Curelop and Ziana McIntyre.
And I'm here by myself again because Z just loves her traveling. I think she's still in Sicily or Italy or France, whatever. She's somewhere in Europe where it's like 9 hours ahead and it's like midnight or 1 a.m. So she is sound asleep right now and I am here talking to you guys. So I think I'm the lucky one and I get the good end of the deal because we are interviewing today one of my good friends, Lars Anderson. Lars is a friend of mine. We've been good friends for about a year now. He's part of GoBundance, which is this kind of men's group that I'm a part of kind of highly successful men looking to just achieve amazing things in life and business and health and relationships and charity, all those great things. And so you'll see that Lars is just like an iconic member of this group because he truly tries to embody all 6 of these things. But what we talk about today is Lars kind of going from that traditional W-2 type job, cold turkey, going straight into being a real estate agent, and then absolutely crushing it in the business and building a rental portfolio of, I think he's got over 30 units now for over $8,000 a month or $100,000 a year. And so, we said this in the show, but basically this is like Lars right now, if you're just starting out, is where you will likely be in 3 to 5 years if you just continue on this journey and you work hard and you get it done. And so it's a 3 to 5 year sacrifice to get to here. Then who knows where Lars goes after this. So let's bring him on the show. Lars Anderson, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today, dude?
Doing awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, it's been a whole 1 day since I've talked to you, so I've missed you very much.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's too long.
Too long. For those of you just listening in, we have a weekly accountability call with some of the guys in GoBundance, and Lars is one of them in my group. So, that's why we talk every week, and we're here today digging in a little bit more into Lars' story. So, Lars, why don't you kick it off and tell us how you first heard about financial independence?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like a lot of people, I heard about financial independence through Bigger Pockets. So when I graduated from college here in Minnesota in 2017 and worked a corporate gig for a year. And like a lot of people, I hated going to work and sitting there for 40 hours a week. And I wanted to get out and run. And I was just doing a lot of refreshing my email, my Outlook email. So got into real estate, met with some different people. And really it was just the connections to people who are in the real estate industry and experiencing some of these things, and ultimately then had a buddy who introduced me to Bigger Pockets.
Awesome. And so I got to ask, what were you doing back in 2017 when you graduated? Like, what was that corporate job that you hated?
Yeah, so I was working it was a good job. I worked for a construction company, so I was basically doing sales for an industrial subcontractor. So I liked it because I was working with blue collar people and project managers and seeing how the construction industry works.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So you liked it in that regard, but didn't like it because you were just bored, not challenged, just hitting refresh on your outbox all day. And so you learned about Bigger Pockets in 2018. What was it? The podcast? Was it the webinars? What got you in?
Yeah, so I met with a few different commercial agents that represented tenants, represented landlords, different parts of the commercial real estate industry. And then I met with a good buddy from college that was in the residential real estate space and actually had started a team. So pretty quickly I put in my 2 weeks notice and realized that was something that I wanted to at least jump in and try and become a full-time realtor And then it was, he said, read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and here's Bigger Pockets. You should check out the podcast. And then I kind of went down that the deep web of what Bigger Pockets offers, and was eating it all up as quickly as I could.
Wow. So you went from W-2 straight to like commission-based work without any sort of other income stream, without testing it out first. You kind of just jumped ship pretty quick.
Yeah, so I was married at the time. And my wife had a W-2 job that fit her super well. I started and ran a landscaping business through high school and college, so I had some money saved up that I'm like, heck, I will give it a year and just try as hard as I can. Worst case is I don't sell a house and I lose some money because I'm paying fees and different things like that. But I figured 10 years from now, I'll look back and at least wish I would have tried something if I stuck in the job I was.
For sure. And I think that's a big thing for a lot of different people, where they are just unsure of making that big move. And, typically, like any progression that you make in life, your worst case scenario is probably the scenario that you're in right now, right? Where it's like, okay, you're stuck in your job. Like, worst things happen is you got to go back and get a job. Maybe you lose 10 or 15 grand, but you need to do that in order to get ahead.
Yeah, I kind of tell people that are thinking about jumping into something like real estate, like the hardest thing is saying yes and just taking, what feels like a really bold action. Obviously, being on this side of things and having some success, you look back and go, oh, that was an easy decision, but it just wasn't. And it's a lot like, investing in your first deal. You just say yes to it and take action, and kind of having the blind hope and looking at people that I trust around me. So, yeah, super thankful that I just took the jump and put in my 2 weeks and really didn't have any other option out.
Awesome. Yeah. And your wife was okay with this? Like, she was comfortable in having you quit your job and kind of being the support, or at least for a few months?
Yeah, I think being a realtor, I think investing in real estate, if you have a wife or a significant other, like, so important to have them on board. Otherwise, life may not turn out how you want it. Your relationship might not look how it is. So she was really encouraging of me, and knew that building a business was going to be something that was time intensive. And, if we had a date night planned with some friends, I may have to take a call because it may be what I have to do to, kind of grind and start up my business, and ultimately miss out on a lot of things that people enjoyed kind of from the 22 to, 26.
Yeah, and that's such a big age to go out and party and have fun, and that's the YOLO age, right? Where you start to have some money, you don't have to study for anything. All you gotta do is show up for 40 hours a week. And so I guess, like, tell us a little bit about that transition too. Like, how was it, quote unquote, sacrificing your early to mid 20s to build this business? And maybe you can't do as many date nights with your wife, or you can't take the vacations. Was that an issue at all?
For me, I wanted a business. I kind of had the itch of like being an entrepreneur from in high school and college. So I wanted a job that I had to pull back from on the weekend. So 8 o'clock at night, I wanted a job that I was excited about and wanted to think about, and actually had to go, okay, Lars, we need to pull back and be really intentional and be present with who I'm with, and kind of create the boundaries there, versus a job like I had when I was W-2, where it was really your job's 40 hours a week. If you want to work more because you enjoy working, that really, it wasn't going to get you any further, kind of thing. So, it was challenging, but I think I just had the end in sight, in creating a, personal brand. And so, I had people around me that, were doing the same thing. So it was great to have a community of people that, I was like.
I love that. And that's such a crucial thing too, is when you're in a W-2 job, or you're just starting out, you're going to be around other people with W-2 jobs. And so it's hard to kind of break the mold, and it's hard to be different. And so, but you are going to have to be different for a few months, and get ready for that, because it's hard. Like, I went through it until you meet your next tribe of people, which might be real estate or whatever other business adventure you're doing. And so, all right, tell us, man. So this is 2018. You become a full-time real estate agent. Tell us about that first year.
Yeah, so the first year, I would say the first 2 years are a little bit of a blur, just a grind. I was available 7 days a week for whoever needed me. I was doing four, five or six open houses every weekend, just trying to meet new people that were potential clients. I was doing as much social media, kind of, I like to say, desensitizing myself to being on social media and taking selfies or videos or those type of things, and kind of having that become a staple in reaching my sphere in my community. So that was 2018 and 2019. Luckily, I had success pretty quickly. I would just attribute that to looking at who was having success around me. I was working with a guy named Sam and Taylor, who I now lead a team with, those two guys, but they went years before me. They were successful. I basically was a copycat of what they were doing, and put my own spin on it. In 2018 and 2019, ended up selling, my first full year, I think a little bit over 40 homes, which was like, hey, I'm doing better than I thought I would.
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, you're selling 40 homes, right? That is probably, if I have to guess, double or triple your income in the first year from your first job. Is that about right?
Yeah, it was probably 6 times my first income.
Okay, 6 times your first income. So I was being conservative there, and so that's the glory of being an entrepreneur, right? Like you go from, how much are you making as a W-2 guy?
I started maybe just above 40 as a W-2 guy.
And so you were making what, 250 in your first year then?
Yeah, my first full year, I was probably a little bit over 200.
Like, do that math. Obviously, like any third grader can tell you that that's 6 times what it is. However, if you put it in perspective of, hey, you went to college for this thing, you got this job that nets you $40,000 per year, but oh wait, you're transitioning after 1 year to doing something that you did not need college for, and now you're making $250,000 a year, which is like as much as that's as much as like doctors and a lot of lawyers make, right? And they went to school for 8 to 10 years. And so I just think it's crazy. Like that's the glory of entrepreneurship, is that there's just no cap. And so you're just getting started here. And I need to ask, what made you so successful at being a real estate agent? So 40 in the first year, it sounds like open houses. You just went hard on open houses. Like, what's your method, right? Like how did you like just crush the open house game?
Yeah, so I think for us, and again, I was just learning from Sam and Taylor, who are the team leads at the time, and still are. But Taylor was a year ahead of me. Sam was 2 years ahead of Taylor in the real estate game. And I really just would say I copied what those guys were doing. I was going, hey, we don't want to pay for leads to come in. So the free ways to do that is using social media, is being at open houses all the time, and then we hit the phones cold calling, just cold calling different investors, for sale by owners, expired listings, and those different things. And that was like, those were the transactions that I was just grinding for. But then it started to, I think what happened is it started to kind of play into, now my social media posts were showing my sphere, because I grew up in this area and have siblings and went to high school and college in the area. So it started to show my sphere that, hey, I'm kind of here to stay. I'm having fun, doing a good job, learning a lot, and I'm ready to roll, for who wants to trust me, kind of thing. So I would just attribute it to kind of all of that encompassing and just kind of treating people the way they should be treated. I don't think real estate is rocket science, but I think you got to hustle a lot and you got to be there for your clients. And so that's what we do on our team. And that's what I would say led me to having some success early, kind of thing.
For sure. And it sounds like, you're probably, I know that a lot of people, when they become real estate agents, they kind of like sit back on their laurels a bit. They're working with 1 or 2 clients at a time. And that's great, right? You can make a pretty good business that way. However, like if you take the 40 hours a week that you working at your W-2 job and apply that to lead generation, which it sounds like what you did between your open houses and cold calls and your social media posts and all that, right? That's how you explode your business. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like a ton more work. You just have to put in the same amount of work that you would for a job, and I think you have tremendous success, and that works with a lot of businesses, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I would say 100%. And the more years that have gone on, which it hasn't been a whole ton of years, I'm just going into the fifth year now, but you get more efficient in how you spend your time. The first year, I definitely wasn't efficient. I was just running around with a chicken with my head cut off.
No, for sure, for sure. I know that feeling. um, all right, man. So now we're in 2019, heading into 2020. You're heading into your second year. I know. When did you start thinking about buying properties yourself? Right, like where did you start thinking about some passive income?
Yeah, so that was, I think, what motivated me a lot was going, I don't have this desire to buy the fancy car or live in the big fancy house or even do the fanciest trips kind of thing. What motivated me from day one was making more money so I could invest more money because it sounded like a really fun game to enter the real estate investment world. So in 2019 is when I bought my first. I just had my Facebook tell me 3 years ago I bought my first place that me and Nicole bought. So 3 years, a lot has happened, but very thankful for that first house.
All right, and that first house is your the for real deal. We like to go into everybody's first deal as what makes you a true real estate investor, your first intentional deal. And so tell us what that deal looked like, what were the numbers on it, all that good stuff, and we'll dig in a little bit.
Yeah, so 2019, the market was really hot. I was looking for a duplex or a triplex, something to house hack. I was nervous about it, but I'm like, I'm jumping in. It's a tried and true way. I was gonna house hack. Do you know who wrote the book House Hack?
No, who wrote that?
The man, Craig Curelop himself. So learning from bigger pockets. Hey, what is house hacking? So we probably put in 2 or 3 offers on duplexes, going well above the asking price, waiving inspection, even though I didn't know what was all entailed in a house and how it all worked. And we just continued to strike out on a few spots. So the school I went to, Bethel University, right in St. Paul, Minnesota, I knew the rental market around there. So I like to say it was the low-hanging fruit. I saw a single-family home that was listed at 280,000. After a few days, it dropped to 250,000. So I kind of went, hey, 280 was too expensive. 250, it's starting to pique my interest, but it's still expensive. But why did they do a 30K price drop? There was like 6 cell phone images on the property, so a terrible job of marketing it. So what I did, I went to the Ramsey County property tax website, and I saw there was some delinquency on taxes. And no one told me to do this, but I was just like, I'm sitting there curious why it's dropping in price so much. And saw they were delinquent, so I put a low ball offer on it. We went back and forth a little bit and landed. I had to close by a certain date, but landed at 224,000, which was it wasn't a screaming deal, but it was definitely a deal. And it was a house that the numbers would work to eventually. I would live there for a year was the plan, and then we'd rent it out to some college students and make some good money on it. So it was basically like I was looking for a duplex and saw a single family home, and that made the most sense at the time.
Okay, yeah, and that's a strategy too that not a lot of people talk about, where you buy a single family home, you live in it for a year, don't rent it out, and then just move on to the next one and rent it out prior. A couple questions I want to ask you on this property though, and so you got this thing from listed at 280 to price drop to 250, all the way down to 224. How do you negotiate and get that? And how do you get 20? Let's say, what is that, $26,000 off?
Yeah, so there was no offers on it. And the benefit of when there's no offers on something is if I realize I need to be quick to the table and figure out, basically get to their bottom dollar as quickly as possible. I probably offered something like 210 on it, so 40,000 under, and pretty quickly got to a point talking with the other realtor where they actually had a price point that they needed in order to sell it. Otherwise, the home would get foreclosed on or pre-foreclosure, and they'd go through that whole rigmarole sort of thing. So 224,000 was kind of the breaking point of that. I think they wanted a little like 230,000, and so kind of worked them down during an inspection phase. and yeah, landed at 224. So
Okay, so you beat them up a little bit on the inspection, and you knew that they were kind of desperate, and that always helps, right? Knowing the seller's motives, and then inspection is your biggest tool to help get the price reduced. Why did you take a price reduction versus not just taking like cash at closing or something like that? Like, did you think about that?
that's a good question. So I don't think I had everything. So one, it was a conventional Freddie Fannie loan that I was using, so a 30-year fixed rate. So there's a little bit less flexibility on getting seller concessions. Now looking back, I was nervous about that monthly payment. What I wish I would have done is go a little bit higher and then get my closing costs paid for, up to 3% paid for. But I didn't do that. Which, so I look back and I go, it was far from the perfect deal, but it turned out, and I just took action and I learned a lot from it for my next deal, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to kind of just, explain that to people too, is that when you're doing your first, second, and third deal, like, you're not an expert. Even when you go in and do your first deal, you're not going to know everything. I messed up my first deal too, and I was like only looking for a duplex when I could have done a single family, and I never thought about that. And so, you start to learn and you start to get smarter as you go. So perfectly okay to be like, yeah, I just it wasn't on my mind at the time, right?
Oh, I was just going to say, another thing I did was that I wish I didn't do. It turned out okay, but I did a 10% down conventional loan. And I think I was just nervous again about that monthly payment, which is understandable. My income wasn't super high at the time because that was early in my first full year kind of thing. But I wish I would have done a 3% down or 3.5 FHA, but I did a 10% down conventional loan. But hindsight 2020 kind of thing, like you're saying.
For sure, for sure. And so what was that monthly payment on that property?
It was probably it was 1150 or about 1200, somewhere in there.
Okay. Oh, a lot of people would salivate at that mortgage cost these
Yeah,
days.
yeah, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, and so okay, so 1150, and now you got to remember that you're paying this yourself because you don't have roommates, you don't have tenants or anything at the time. Did you do any rehab to the place or anything like that?
Yep. So it was beat up. They had like 5 kids living there. It was a small 4-bedroom, 3-bath, but it was like a hidden gem because they didn't take good pictures of a couple of the bathrooms that were actually really nicely done. I noticed in the basement we're going to add a bedroom, so added a 5th bedroom. So I would say over that next year, we probably put in $25,000 of our own money, and something that I'm not a very handy person, and that included getting all new water heater, HVAC, furnace. All of those things had to get replaced because it was just junky before. There was like 5 dogs living there, if I said that. So what was cool about that is I took it as an opportunity as a realtor to go, hey, I'm going to kind of GC these things. So I'm going to find handymen, I'm going to find subcontractors, an HVAC guy that I can begin to like, know, and trust, and hire them and kind of see what kind of work they do, how much it costs. And that now helps me to this day put certain costs associated as I'm walking through a home with a buyer or an investor, because I've been there. I've been the one that's actually meeting the person, at my own house, having them seeing how the work is getting done and that sort of thing. So I put $25,000 over that year into it, and then a little bit of sweat equity with painting cabinets white and some of that, and just kind of beautifying it. Because I have my wife Nicole with me there, and she's not going to live in filth like maybe I would be more okay with, kind of thing. So we beautified it over that year.
It's funny how the wives will do that. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you got about $25,000 down, $25,000 into it, so $50,000 all the way, and your monthly payment is about $1150. And so after a year, right, you move out, and so what are you getting for rents nowadays?
Yep. So moved out, got $24.50 in rent from some really good college guys that probably have taken better care of the property. They just moved out and a new crew moved in, but they took really good care of it over the past 2 years. So 2450, and that was year one. It increased last year, and then I kind of used the BRRRR strategy. So it was a mix. It was like I was living there, but then we used the BRRRR strategy because we rehabbed it and then rented, and then I refinanced. I think appraisal came back at something like 228 or 328,000. So it came. We kind of forced 1,000 between just appreciating in the market, getting a good deal, and then forcing some appreciation with sweat equity. We added about $100,000 to that deal, and then we took out 35,000. So I still left quite a bit of money in it because I flipped it to an investor loan because I was no longer there. So it had to be a 20% down investor loan. So the monthly payment went up to about $1,250. We took 35,000 out. So we had 15,000 left in the deal, and we're cash flowing, about $1,000 after we paid a property manager.
Wow, that's incredible. So that's using basically all of the strategies, right? You've got a little house hack with a low down payment loan. You've got a traditional rental property. You've got the BRRRR, and so and now it's cash flowing you $1,000 a month. And so with these college kids, is it one lease, or do you have individual leases? One lease. Okay, so super easy too.
Yep.
And you manage it yourself?
I initially managed it myself. That's another story. About a year and a half that I haven't been managing properties, and I'm so thankful for it. I finally took the plunge, and I'm so dumb for not doing it earlier. But I did manage it for a little bit. Those guys didn't call me a whole lot, which was good. So yeah, now that one cash flow is about $900 or $1,000 a month after I pay a property manager. I don't hear anything from them, so that was my first deal, and it was a good one. And I would say the biggest benefit is I'm actually getting paid for probably learning more than I learned in my years in college, just about how the housing market works, how money works, how refinancing works. I was new to all that stuff. I didn't have someone holding my hand through it, but I did have people giving advice on stuff. So it was a deal that I learned a lot on.
Okay, awesome. I love that, man. And the first one is always the hardest, right? And so it's what 2020 is when you move out of that one. Is that right?
Yes, 2020. And then we moved into a home that was a little smaller down the road.
Okay, and was this an investment property as well?
It's now an investment property. Yeah, we lived there for a year. There was less kind of maintenance issues and cosmetic updates that we needed to make to that one. But again, it was we were going to live there for a year, do a 10% down payment, and lock that in for 30 years. It was $230,000, I think, was the cost. We added a bedroom and then moved out a year later. And my wife is like, I don't want to move in a year. We had a kid in that home. It was probably like 1,200 square feet. And that's when COVID was rampant. So my wife was at home with our newborn, and she's like, I need a little bit more space and I don't want to move again in a year. But we got two of them under the belt. Just doing the live there for a year and move. So.
Yeah, we gotta get a name for that, like the hack and hop or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right, and so you got the second one, and then so when you moved out of that one, in what sounds like maybe 2020, 2021, how much were you rent? Like, what was the monthly payment on that, and what was your rent?
Yeah, rent on that one was a smaller house, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. I think rent is $2,000, and my monthly payment is $1,250. So probably cash flowing $650 after I pay a property manager. At first, I was cash flowing, $750 or $800 on that one.
For sure. And so, are these like typical deals that you're seeing in the Minnesota St. Paul area, or the St. Paul, what's the other city, Minneapolis area, where like you can get cash flow of $500 to $1,000 a month, and that's like feeling pretty good? Or is that just because you bought it a few years ago and now it's increased?
No, I would say those are like in the last couple of days. I've had a couple investors offer and get homes under contract just like that. And cash flow is now been kind of leaned out a little bit, but I would say all day Minnesota is still a cash flow state, and single family homes you could probably, get a home for 300, anywhere from 275 to 325 in cash flow, $600 to $800 a month on it. So it's still a good spot to be. And those are, I would call B or B plus areas to be. So maybe not the most expensive, but for sure your renter pool is going to be, families with good jobs or college students that go to, there's a couple Christian universities right around here.
Okay, very cool, man. Very cool. So yeah, Minnesota seems like a hot market, man. I might have to pick your brain, and my shiny object syndrome is definitely lighting up here.
There you go.
All right, man. And so you've got two. So it's like 2020, 2021. You've got your two rental properties. You've got your primary residence now, which you're kind of staying in for a while. And so where does your like real estate? I guess Okay, let's back up for a second. One question I have is, you quit your W-2 job. How did you qualify for these loans? Like, how did you get two loans in your name when you didn't have 2 years of being a real estate agent yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. I had a little bit of a cheat code because my wife was W-2, and we didn't. She did a good job of paying off. We paid off debt as quickly as possible and paid that off within a year. Actually, before we were married, leading up to the wedding, we got all our loans paid off. Just put all our savings towards that, so we were able to use her W-2 income for that because I had to wait a couple of years.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So that definitely helps if you got a W-2, a spouse that has a high roller and makes good money on W-2. All right, man. So let's fast forward a little bit now. So 2020, 2021, you've got the houses. Like, where's your real estate business going next? Where is your real estate agent business going next? Now that we're in 2021.
Yeah. So along the way in 2020, I bought as we were doing those houses, and I would just say what we did was we lived below our means. I started making good income. We didn't put our money towards a car. We didn't put our money towards, buying the fancy home. I look back and I go, I'm sure thankful because we could have stretched ourselves and maybe afforded a $400,000 home that we were really excited about off the bat. But I'm really happy what we did was we decided to be smart with our money and kind of live like a lot of people maybe wouldn't think to live. And do those two homes that were below where I was seeing some, even friends or kind of peers around me, what they were buying. So we lived below our means and were able to pick up some other properties. So picked up a few duplexes, a few fourplexes, a sixplex, and now we're at about 30 doors in all. So that's been over the last few years, but I would say it all started because we just saved money, and then it's snowballed and compounded on each other, and it's really cool how real estate works in that fashion.
Wow. So it seems like you've just kind of like perfected that formula of, hey, grow your real estate agent business, make more money, live frugally, spend less money, invest the difference in rental properties, and that's how you've went from two single families to now 30 units in like basically 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. That would be, and some people, don't have the ability if they're in a W-2 job or something to kind of boost up the income that quickly and fund some of these deals. But there's a lot of different ways to get funding. There's a lot of people that want to invest a lot of money in real estate. And so that has been our philosophy, and we'll keep going with it and try to live, below our means so we can continue to invest in real estate because it's a fun game.
For sure. Now, have you ever taken money from other people to invest?
I haven't. That would be what I've done. Actually, started to do as people saw what I was doing, and other investors that were maybe executives or had high income earners, where I've actually jumped on a deal really quickly, allowing me to act swiftly where I have my name on there. And then I sometimes even act like a wholesaler in a way where I say, Lars Anderson or assigns, and then I'll kind of shift it to someone else and go, hey, here's a deal. Here's how the numbers work. it's a single family home. It's a duplex. It's maybe a single or a double. It's not a grand slam type deal, but you've said you wanted to invest in real estate, and that's a way that I've kind of tried to build up trust with people. Eventually, those may be people that come in bigger deals. For me and my wife personally, we've just decided to invest in deals ourselves up to this point, so we can kind of maneuver the finances, and if we want to sell a property or not sell a property, we have the ability to control that 100%. So that's just been maybe that changes, but up to this point, everything's been 100% owned by us.
Love that. Okay. Awesome, man. All right, man. So I guess, we've kind of taken your journey, right? As a quick recap, right? Started off, we have kind of similar stories, right? Where we started off in college, was going to go the traditional route of corporation, hated it, found bigger pockets, did real estate, started becoming a real estate agent, buying rental properties. And now, over a few years, right? You're like, those of you just starting, you're looking right now at the both of us, we're just you in 5 years. Right, like we're in chapter 5 of our, and you guys are still in the beginning in the intro. If you're listening to this and you haven't started investing yet, but it's kind of like where you can get to, right? You can get to having, Lars, you said you had about 30 units. I've got like 20 something. And Lars, where is your passive income at today? About 4 or 5, 3 years actually after your first rental property.
I would say it's right around maybe $80,000 to $100,000. Per year. Yep. So that would be, per year. So we got to the 60, I think my wife was making 65,000. So we got to the 65 mark or right around there. And then she now is at home. We have 2 kids under 2. And so she's at home, which is a huge blessing kind of for our family that she's able to be at home. And I think so we're right around probably 80 or 100,000 kind of passively at this point.
I love that. And so that's financial independence. And now you're just growing, and then you can, maybe get a bigger house for when you have kids number 3 and 4.
Yeah, exactly. That's and something that drives me each day, kind of my why behind, what I do is I really enjoy seeing friends, family, anyone who wants to jump into the game and kind of help them like a bigger pockets, and like you in this podcast, trying to demystify how challenging it is and how many hoops you have to jump through, and try to simplify it, because I know if someone even picks up that 1 property or 2 properties, it doesn't have to be 30 or 1,000, but those properties can kind of change the landscape of their future family and future generations. It could help pay for, a college. It could be a retirement. It could just kind of ease off. And if they have a larger home payment where you get a few $1,000s towards that payment passively each month. So it's so cool what real estate, can do in that fashion. And it all starts with just kind of having the trust for jumping in.
I love that, man. Yeah, real estate is huge. I mean, it's changed my life. It sounds like it's changed yours, and it just gives you the freedoms that really nothing else can. All right, Lars, so we are going to be heading into the final part of our show. And before we get there, though, is there any last words of wisdom you want to enthrone on our audience?
I guess one thing is there's a lot of very wise people out there when it comes to real estate investing. But I would say make sure to kind of stay focused on what you want to stay focused on. There's a lot of shiny objects out there, things to invest your money in. And just because someone else is doing it doesn't mean it's right for you. So something that I tell people is, decide what your goal is. If someone's goal is to have $5,000 a month in passive income, great. If someone's goal is just to have $1,000 in passive income, and that kind of eases up, maybe some stress that they have, and they're able to sleep a little better at night, then just get to that point, and you don't have to strive to be the person that syndicates a massive deal or something like that. So my one thing would be, stay in your lane and focus on what you want to focus on, and become kind of an expert on it, instead of always, looking, because I've done that too. And I have to remind myself, just because just because the grass looks greener on the other side doesn't mean, that's green grass for what I want, kind of thing. So
I love that. Yeah, it's so easy to compare yourself, right, to people making, especially in GoBundance, like people making in the hundreds of millions of dollars a year or whatever it is. And, because they're doing syndications or all these things, but like, we know what's the goal, right? Like, do you want to do all that work? Do you want to grow that much, or do you just want to enjoy life? Because, like, don't forget about what you're trying to get to. So, love that advice, bro. All right, so let's head into
the final four.
And the first question is, Lars, what book are you reading right now?
a book that I'm reading right now is Think and Grow Rich. But the book that I just finished that I want to talk about is Lifestyle Investor by Justin Donald. That's been an awesome book.
You were talking about this book in San Francisco, which has been about a month now. And so, is this a really long book, or are you a really slow reader?
I'm a pretty slow reader, so there's that. I finished it probably a week and a half ago. But I'm like, if I'm a book a month, that's I'm doing good.
Okay, fair enough. So tell us a little bit about the Lifestyle Investor. Like, would you recommend it? Is it good?
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. It's probably been, besides Rich Dad Poor Dad, honestly one of my favorite kind of investment mindset books. So Justin Donald talks a lot about investing in cash flowing assets. He talks about it's all about your lifestyle. So if you want your lifestyle to look a certain way, or you want to be able to afford something that maybe isn't an asset, think about purchasing an asset. It could be a home. It could be something else that cash flows that would actually end up paying for that, that car that you want, or whatever that thing is that you want, the season tickets to the ball game, or that sort of thing. So it's been a good mindset shift for me.
Okay, yeah, it's a good one. You were touting that so much, I actually put it on my list, and I think that's up next for me. So I'll let you know when I finish it. All right, man. Second question: what is the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice that I've received, it probably is to meet with people that have been there and done that. Not that it was said to me like that, but to meet with people that are wiser than I am, pick their brains, hear their life stories, hear how they do business, how they view business and family, how they view their faith. And it's when I made a shift like that, it was probably 2 years ago that I made that kind of shift of going, hey, I want to start to have coffee meetings with even investors that have a whole lot more than I do, or this person that runs a really successful business and is also a great dad and is involved in the community at church. And that's been great for me to meet with people that are doing an awesome job and learn from their mistakes, as well as, the advice that they would have for, a 27-year-old like me.
Love that, man. I love that. Yeah, just becoming that whole life millionaire, which I think is great. Third question is, what is your why? We kind of touched on that, but why don't you just reiterate it?
Yeah, so my why is helping my clients to build wealth and be a positive impact on their communities, on their churches, and future generations. So that's through me being involved in the community. That's through real estate. That's through me being a dad and a husband, and also being involved with my friends and family too.
Love it, dude. Love that. Final question: how long do you think you would last in a zombie apocalypse?
Oh, good question. Not very long. Oh, I'll say maybe I'm not school smart, but I'm street smart. So I think what I would do is make good connections with the people around me that seem like they know what they're doing. So I may look at you and I may go, hey, let's be great friends. I may pump your tires up a little bit because I realize you may have some resources and some knowledge that I don't have. Is that a good answer?
I like that. All right. So how long did it take? That's a great answer. No. There's no bad answer, but to put this in more recent terms, how long did it take you before you got COVID?
It took me. I just got it a few weeks ago for the first time.
Wow. Okay, so you would last pretty long. If
Yeah,
COVID is like the time of when you turn into a human from a zombie, then you did pretty good, man. So good
I
for you.
lasted long. Yeah, whatever the last strand was, I was lucky to get that one.
Nice. Yeah, I had it for the first time over Christmas, which was super fun. Um,
Yeah, that's a
cool,
great time
man.
to get it.
Well,
Christmas.
Lars, thank you so cool, man. So thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure. Loved hearing your story. Love having you on, and just love you as a person in general. So thanks again so much, man, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah, I love you, brother. Thanks.
And that was Lars Anderson. Man, I just love Lars so much. He's just such a great dude. And I just love all of the things he says about, wanting to help other people achieve financial independence through real estate investing, just like we do. I love how, he was able to, him and his wife were be able to work as a team to, get those first two properties. But then after those first two, he was able to kind of take a step back, put the foot off the throttle a little bit. He's got some passive income. His real estate business has taken off. He has a couple kids, and he's now able to buy a house that is more to his liking. But still, no matter what, he has still lived well below his means, really kind of trying to like crush that formula that we talk about all the time, which is just, right, make as much as you can, spend as little as you can, and invest the difference in assets that will give you passive income. And the results are just incredible that way. And so you can see that Lars has had tremendous amounts of results. And if you like this episode, please leave us a rating or review on iTunes. It helps us so much. Shoot me a follow. Shoot me a message on Instagram. I'm at the Fi Guy. Ziana is Ziana McIntyre. You can give her a little nudge and tell her to get back on the show because we miss her. And yeah, we'll see you guys all next week.
That's it for this episode of Investify. We hope that these nuggets of real estate wisdom lead to more savvy financial planning and a clearer path towards financial freedom. For more content like this, subscribe to the show at investify.com. Don't forget to leave a rating and share it with your friends. Together, we can transform more real estate newbies into successful and clever investors. Thank you so much for listening. See you on the next one.